Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Jeb Boardman, and in each episode, we'll uncover the stories behind successful startups, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future expansion. Today, we're excited to have Mitchell August, the COO and co-founder of Superior Sports, joining us. Mitchell's going to be sharing more about his founding story, giving us a glimpse into his future plans for growth. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Mitchell, welcome to Founders Future.
Appreciate you, Jet. Appreciate you having me on and giving us a little bit of exposure.
Yeah, really happy to have you on here, man. So take us back to the beginning. I mean, what specific problem inspired you to start Superior Sports?
Yeah, man, it's a great question. It's the same answer that everyone gives in the interviews that I have with interns and everything. You know, I loved sports. The biggest problem, man, was that I wasn't as good at basketball as much as I loved it. Okay, and there was a little bit of a market inefficiency at the time I came in. Where you had these big agencies expanding quickly and no real coordinator. So I learned from the ground level, okay, at some of the largest agencies. That was Priority Sports, that was Octagon, and this new position that was created, okay, I was lucky enough to dive right into, and it was touching every different part of an agency. So it was great informative experience. It was 13, 14 hours of work a day and getting paid nothing. But from that, I learned how to touch every single different part of a basketball agency, sports representation, marketing, PR, finance, accounting, all of it. And that gave me the experience that I needed to eventually, after years working under some of the largest agents in the country, Alex Saratzis, Mark Bartelstein, dive in and start my own company. Now, you asked me what the problem was. It was more of an opportunity. It was NIL and the creation of college athletes getting paid. Now there's a world in which you don't have to compete with WME, CAA, Octagon, Priority in order to drive profit. You don't just have to represent one of the top 30 players going in this year's draft. There's endless kids out there who need help navigating NIL, the transfer portal, and all of it, and that's just what we're here to do.
Okay, cool. So it's kind of, I mean, problem slash opportunity where you see an opportunity of this new thing coming on, but the problem is you got all these kids who didn't know where to go with it.
100%.
Very cool.
I mean, you'd have to have been in, athlete recruiting for an agency to kind of know how to present and how to market your agency.
Right.
So a lot in my career, man, a lot of right place, right time. I'm not afraid to admit that.
That's I think how most careers go, right? There's a good saying that says it's less about being in the right place at the right time, but doing the things that will put you in the right places. So when the right time comes, you're there, right?
1,000%, 1,000%.
So walk us through like your offer evolution. How has what you do changed since you started?
Oh man, it's a completely different landscape. So when I came out of the University of Michigan in 2018 and was an intern at Priority Sports, it was as simple as you would pitch to kids leaving college to play professional basketball. If you were lucky enough to get one of the kids that was going in the draft, amazing. You'd pitch to kids that were going overseas. But when we used to hand out the contracts, it would say in there, if you sign this contract with Priority Sports, you will lose your college eligibility. My entire business, at least, front facing, is focused on collegiate athletes and their representation. So the ability to procure marketing deals for them is one thing, but now recruiting starts in high school and college, whereas years ago it was happening, but it was illegal. It's offered a whole new depth to the agency game and the recruiting measures that we're allowed to take. It gives us a more nimble one leg up on some of these larger firms, which have to prioritize their funding and the revenue streams on larger clients, where we're able to dive in and find those little market inefficiencies, find the kids transferring from Southeastern Louisiana to the University of Michigan. So we've been able to capitalize our entire business model on a sector that didn't exist when I graduated just a few years ago.
Okay. So really a whole new pivot, it sounds like. I mean, the knowledge came, but the industry completely changed on what you're doing.
An entirely new pivot. And if you want, even now, if you want to get those kids who are going to go in the top 60, the draft eligible kids, you got to recruit them when they come out of high school. So got to be able to more nimbly operate. And it's not just me, I have my co-founder, Corey Barker, and it's a match made in heaven. I like to say it's like the line from Boogie Nights. Okay. I do everything with operations. That COO title isn't an accident. Corey brings the money to the business, which is an important part of the process. Okay. So, he's on the ground floor in the AAU circuit, for the last 15, 20 years. No one's more connected than him. So he's as good of a recruiter as I've ever met. He could never have operated, 8, 10 years ago in the way he's able to now. So not only has it changed for me operationally, but it's given, everybody a new path in this industry. It's pretty crazy.
Right, right. Well, cool. Well, I mean, you've touched on some important points, right? You talked about Octagon, you talked about Priority Sports. I mean, what was your background before launching this business, and how did that expertise influence your approach to this new sector?
Yeah, man, it's a great question. First of all, it's all I've ever done. So right out of the University of Michigan, went right as an unpaid intern to Priority Sports. That was like cutting paper, cutting plastic, delivering mail, like asking for work, internship. And again, on theme, right place, right time, got hired by Octagon. My mentor, boss, Alex Saratsas, who's Giannis Antetokounmpo's agent, Bam Adebayo's agent, OG Anunoby's agent, Dennis Schroeder's agent, bunch of guys, bunch of big players. I was lucky enough to work on all those accounts with him and learn everything I know from him, and Josh Beauregard-Bell, who was the coordinator there as well. And that was an internship where it was the exact opposite. It was the antithesis. It was straight into the fire, touching every different department, all hands on deck, putting out fires all day. And from that, it was honestly, man, just doing work they didn't want to do. So when you do that, you touch a lot of different parts of the business.
Yeah.
And a lot of bullshit work, but that's where I learned everything I know. And I was responsible for putting together the recruiting presentation, taking it from them to creative, reviewing it. You learn what a recruiting presentation looks like. You learn what a marketing pitch looks like. You learn when you listen to Alex talk to teams, how you're supposed to talk to teams. So from doing all the work no one else wanted to do at Octagon, I worked my way up to be a junior agent and then was established enough with my connections and prerequisite skills to leave with the CMO, help found the Epic Consulting Group, and then eventually leave there from having that previous co-founder experience and launch my own seed round and fund my own company.
Very cool. I mean, that's it's interesting you say, it's all you've done, but it sounds like you did a lot more than just right place, right time. You kind of put the work in that you're not giving yourself credit for.
A lot of work. I tell this story to people that when I used to live in Chicago, okay, we would go out, as you do when you're 22, 23-year-old with your boys. You go out to the club, you go wherever. I'd bring my laptop with me because 9 out of 10 nights I'm going out, even to a bar, even to a restaurant, even my family would come into town. I was never available. I was working 15, 16 hours a day.
Right.
I get into the office at 5 or 6 a.m., but it's no different than what anybody else did. You pay your dues and you put yourself in the right places. And if you're willing to work for it and bust your ass, that's how you get yourself into the right place.
Right. Right. I think there's a little bit of credit you got to give yourself there being willing to do it, right? Like you said, you did the work nobody else wanted to do. I mean, with that being said, though, I mean, many founders face a moment where they almost gave up. Did you have one of those? And how did you push through it?
Absolutely. I had more moments where I almost gave up than more moments of success in this industry. All right. The success are big paydays, big deals, signing large clients. But, when you're alone at Octagon, as a 6-foot white Jew, okay, in the industry of basketball, you don't have the same connections that you need. Okay. It's not like the next Giannis Antetokounmpo is just going to sign with you. You have to pave your own way and make those connections and networks. So there were many times where I thought, I don't have the connections in this industry to make it work. And B, I don't have, the wherewithal to work 16 hours, 15 hours a day for the next 10 years of my life.
Right.
So again, right place, right time. There were lucky breaks. When the CMO of Octagon left, I built a great relationship with Kate. That was a point where I was thinking about quitting Octagon. And when she left, that was a breath of fresh air. And that was a big risk, whether I was going to leave or not. If Epic didn't turn out to work out, then that would have been the end of my career. But that's how I met Corey, was when I was at Epic. And, from there, like taking the risk of leaving Epic and going and starting my own thing with Corey. So yeah, there were times where I thought about giving up, but more of it was risk assessment and pivoting and taking that big swing.
Okay. You said taking that big swing?
Yeah.
Give us a little more context on that. When you say the big swing, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, for sure. So I think it's kind of analogous. Like if you're working at a great firm, okay, a law
Mhm.
firm or a great marketing agency, and you have a great book of business, okay, and a consistent salary and benefits. I left that multiple times in my career to jump off and sit on someone else's project. Whether that was, leaving Priority Sports and working my way up in a guaranteed job after my internship to Octagon. I didn't know if I'd make it there. I didn't know anyone there. And then eventually working my way up at Octagon for 3 years and jumping ship, to help found the Epic Consulting Group was a huge risk. I wasn't allowed to take my book of business with me anywhere I went. It's a complete restart, only taking my prerequisite skills, and the little salary they were paying me at Octagon and Priority, and starting my own thing. And, really, and I mean it, like, the most valuable skill in this industry is just touching all the different departments and taking risks. And if I wouldn't have left to start my own thing at Epic and taken that big risk, giving up that salary and giving up, sitting under my mentor's wing, I never would be where I'm at today.
Got it. So when you're talking about the big swing, it's that jump, it's that leap of faith, it's that I'm about to do it. It's
It's
got to
betting,
work out.
it's betting on yourself. It really is. And
The
sometimes
big
betting,
swing.
betting on
Uh,
yourself, sometimes when you don't even have the resources, to take the big swing, but you got to go for it in this industry
Right.
to make it.
Right. No, absolutely. Well, okay. I mean, we touched on a few things, and you talked about how you've touched on all different parts of the process. What's one misconception people often have about your industry you'd like to address?
Yeah, I think there's a lot. I think the thing people don't understand about what we do is marketing is one part of it. Okay, with
Hmm.
it's a myth. Okay, it's few and far between. The top 3-4% of most engaged audiences with a individual athlete's social media brand. Okay, for example, our most active player on social media is Cam Burton. He's a guard at Southeast Louisiana who is only averaging 15, 16 minutes. He gets NIL deals. Our player who will make the most money from a collective payment, pay to play essentially,
Hmm.
get no marketing deals this year. Those marketing deals are entirely social media based. It doesn't matter how great of an agent you are. You can push a player till the cows come home. Okay, it's all about social media numbers and staying ahead of the curve on that and understanding that. So yeah, like talent representation is one part of it, but the marketing, that's kind of a myth. Those deals that you hear about, they're only for the top 1-2% of the athletes on social media.
So the misconception is that there's a lot more out there than people think.
And there's almost nothing out there. It's almost all pay to play now. That's the
Mm,
entire nature of the beast.
interesting. Interesting. Cool. Well, we're kind of jumping over talking more so about Superior Sports. Can you walk us through like how your business generates revenue? What does you offer and how you figure out who you're going to offer it to?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a niche which is just NIL. So, and when I say that, I don't mean the marketing deals because we wouldn't drive any revenue that.
Mhm.
It's finding the market inefficiency. So finding Cam Burton at Southeast Louisiana who doesn't have representation. This is a kid we evaluate and know can play at the next level, whether that's Power Five basketball at one of the main conferences, or taking a kid like Tyshawn Archie from Tulsa, who should be playing at a Michigan or Michigan State, but was assigned a lower grade in his initial recruiting. Okay. So
Mm,
no agent has an interest in representing him outside of high school. Well, we'll watch you, we'll continue to watch you develop, and we'll represent you. And we'll work our ass off pushing you to those Power Five programs. For example, Reuben Jones was on North Texas. Okay. We moved him from North Texas to Michigan. He had a great year. He made $750,000. And the University of Michigan will pay us a consultancy fee, often 25% of that deal to promote, to try and get us to send players there.
mhm.
And then for our services, we'll charge our players 10% on their transfer fee. We'll charge 20% on their marketing too, which is standard agency rate. But really, our entire revenue is driven from what just opened today, ironically, the transfer portal.
Mm. Okay. So transport is big for you. I mean, you're talking about this type of stuff, right? I immediately think of like Josh Allen, right? His story, nobody wanted to recruit him, got himself a place, and look at him now, right?
Percent. I mean, think about like the kids in football, and we don't. I'm taking my agency exam in football. We do a little bit of it.
Yeah, you do basketball now, but.
But yeah, like look at, Kyle McCord, from
Mm,
Ohio State. Look at some of these guys where they end up playing, and then they get drafted. But kids are staying 3, 4, 5 years now, moving around schools multiple times. It's a whole different world, and it breathes a whole different life into these agencies.
right, right. Very, very interesting. So what does it look like for you to like acquire a client? Is it a lot of, as it's called like wine and dine, or what is it that you have to do to get a client on board?
I mean, it's all about trust, right? It's about showing that you're actually capable of moving them and helping their career. And
Hmm.
the pitch Corey and I give is the truth every time we get on the phone with the kid. If I'm presenting to you, it's not because I want to move you from North Texas to Michigan. It's because I think you're an NBA player. I mean, we help players get from college to college, but we're NBPA certified agents. We represent NBA players.
Mm,
Marcus, Kenny Lofton Jr. Previously I'd helped with Jamal Murray, all of Shaden Sharp, a bunch of big NBA players. That's our goal. So we're telling kids who we believe in that we believe in them. And what we're going to do is help get them to the right places to showcase their ability and eventually make the NBA. And it's kind of funny. It's what I said to you earlier. And what I say to these kids is it's the same with me. I learned at Octagon. I learned at Priority. I learned everything I need to do. Same
hmm.
with Tyshawn Archie at Tulsa. He wears a lot of hats because that team doesn't have the talent. But when he gets to Michigan State, when he gets to Michigan next year, he'll know how to play that role. He'll know what it takes to be an NBA player. And that's what we pitch our clients is that we're going to turn you into an NBA player and always be there for you along that way.
Got it. Got it. So it's kind of putting them through that same journey, just like taking people who know everything and getting them to where they can really strive.
100%. And Corey on the other side too. No one's more well connected. No one does a better job procuring NIL deals and evaluating fit. If you get a kid, and what we tell our guys, if you go just for money, you take a deal for 400,000 instead of 300,000, could be the last payment you ever get. You could be in a terrible basketball fit at a school that's going to bury you on the bench or bring in another player at your position. Having a good agent is about putting yourself in the best fit for the next contract, not the current contract.
Mm,
That's what a great agent is. And that's what Mark Bartle
nice.
taught me at Priority Sports. It's not about this contract, it's about the next one.
Right. That's a good way to look at it. I mean, if we're looking at Superior Sports, you've only been in business, what, September last year, right? So fairly new in terms of business growth. What would you say is your biggest bottleneck right now to growing? Is it more conversations? Is it, fulfilling? Like what is the biggest bottleneck for you?
Capital, 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 right? It's all about capital and risk evaluation. We can continue to, acquire debt, and we will be profitable this year. Okay, but it's all about how big of swings do you want to take? It costs money to go
Mhm.
after these top kids. So our biggest bottleneck for growth is, hey, we want to swing for, LeBaron Philon at Alabama. Okay, that's going to take $75,000 to
Right.
step up and move to the next level as an agency, which we have the connections to do. It's about sourcing capital and doing so responsibly. Do we choose to bring on the three interns we have right now in a full-time role? Are they going to drive more revenue, or is pushing in the other direction? So really, most of it is internal. You do a SWOT analysis. Our
Mhm.
opportunities are a mile long, just right place, right time. Uh,
Right.
but it's capital, capital, capital is our biggest bottleneck.
Got it. So I mean, as you're looking at that, right? What would you like if you said the biggest thing is capital. If you had to like wave a magic wand to fix that, what does that look like? Is it getting more investors? Is it just having more deals go through? What's kind of the ideal situation for you to grow?
Yeah, it's really honestly going to be about this transfer portal cycle that we're in now. If we meet our projections, then we'll be able to take that next step without bringing on more debt, without bringing on more investors, without diluting diluting
Hmm.
shares more than they're already diluted. But again, you can't be afraid to take a big swing. I'm not afraid of taking on more debt. I'm confident in the lane we're in. We've had a great first year thus far. As long as we continue to execute, I'm confident that we're going to be profitable and be ready and have a proof of concept to tell
Yeah.
investors that we're headed in the right direction.
Cool. Cool. I mean, on this track of looking, future pacing kind of growth strategies, is there a specific target you guys are aiming for? Is it a revenue? Is it a number of clients? Like, is there anything you specifically have pinned you're going for?
100%. It's going to be revenue. Number of clients for us isn't a concern. We'll only go after clients that, we'll only go after the number of clients that we can manage. If we brought on 25 clients, we're not going to be able to do a good job moving them and give them the attention they need. These are like super valuable accounts, so
Right.
they're going to take a lot of attention and management. So it's all about revenue driven from the 10 to 12 clients that we brought on this year.
Got it. Got it. Well, okay, so if we're talking like you said, the biggest thing is this transfer portal, right? This cycle you want to go through. Obviously, you need to capitalize on that. But if you had unlimited resources to you right now, it could be people, it could be capital, things like that. What would you implement or change immediately to accelerate growth? Because you can't speed up the transfer portal, right? It's gonna do its thing. So what would you change if you could?
100%. It's then you have the opportunity to build, what Octagon has, which is an army of resources. They have, 20, 30 people just on their basketball team who are dedicated to A, finding the market inefficiencies, finding the players that we target, but B, they also have the capital to take big swings on big clients.
Hmm.
It's the culmination of the two. When you're working with the financing that we're working with, we have to stay on one target. Okay, we're very
Hmm.
linear in the way we approach our business. We know our niche and we execute on it and we're very good at it. Okay. Octagon can afford to swing and miss way more. They can explore 4 or 5 different avenues. They have time to push marketing. They have time to push everything that we're pushing. They have time to pitch to 30 of the 30 top, draft prospects this year.
Hmm.
We don't have the time to do that. It's not, and we're saying capital and we're focusing on finance, but for me, capital is even more about the time we have, uh,
Right.
3 full-time people on our team. So it's all about the time I have in a day. If I'm going to be pitching to a client, I better be damn sure we have a good chance of signing them because there's a lot of time and work that goes into that. And while I'm pitching to this client, that client's signing with another agency, that potential account, so
Hmm.
it's more about focus, time, and energy than even money.
Right. Got it. And would you solve that by just having more people on the team that know what they're doing or?
100%. It's all
Okay.
about talent and connections, 2, 3, 4 Corys, who bring money
Yeah.
to the business. That's
Yeah.
is bringing in people who can make those initial inroads. 100%.
What about taking some of the stuff off your plate, right? You just mentioned if you're pitching someone, you got to make sure you're sure that like they're going to be a good client. Do you see reality where you take, like you mentioned, your three interns and you make them into three, four Mitchells, or what do you see happening there?
100%. An agency's only as good as the coordinators who help operate it. So the kids that I have are awesome. Jeff, Mitch, Naomi, they're incredible. The second we have the capital now talking about financing again to bring them on
Hmm.
full time in a role that fully compensates them. It's a lot of work.
Right.
And it's
Right.
work that I did unpaid for a long time. I know how it is. So yeah, 100%. Just to coordinating the day to day, the amount that goes into it. Yeah, I'd love to take some off my plate, but you're a founders podcast. Any
Yeah.
founder who wants to
Yep.
make it is going to be busting their ass. That's
Yep. Yeah, it's like the founder's trap, right? Nobody knows your business as well as you do, but in order to grow, you have to find people who get damn close, right? So,
100%.
yeah. Well, how do you see your industry evolving in the coming years, and how are you positioning yourself for that future?
Yeah, no, I think that we're in a completely insanely volatile industry with NIL.
Uh-huh.
5 years ago it was illegal. In 5 years it could be fully collectively bargained. So we try to attend conferences. We try to stay up to date with legislation. We're big into that. We try and do our research daily. We have interns who bring us, who will go through Doc Hub, through anything they can find, and procure articles and stay ahead of the research. But really, it's just about being nimble. It's just about adjusting your approach as it changes because we can't anticipate every change,
Right.
So if in 2 years it's collectively bargained where we have to be NCAA certified agents to negotiate these deals, then you know what? Let's be the first NCAA certified agent. Let's figure out exactly what the quickest and most efficient way to do that is. So for us, it's really staying up to date with the trend and just trying to be efficient when that change happens.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. So, I mean, you talked about, hiring people on, capital, time, all these things being kind of the bottleneck or preventing you from scaling. Talking to a bunch of listeners who are founders or future founders who want to start companies, right? As you're looking ahead at all these things you have in place, how do you decide which one you go after first?
So what do you mean by that? Which one I go after first in what sense?
Meaning, how do you know which one is the most important use of your time, right? Because all of them are going to play into you growing the business. So how do you decide, well, I'm spending time, maybe it's more capital, or I'm spending time, offloading my plate to some of my interns, or I'm trying to train the interns. How do you know when is the right time to do those things?
It's a great question. The best strategy I found in the first few months of this is tackle the biggest problem that you have that day. Okay. So if our biggest problem of that day is procuring transfers for the current clients we have, that is where my attention is going that day. And I don't stop on that project until it's resolved. All right. So in the agency world, for me, it's more about putting out fires. I've got an amazing partner who's focused on revenue generation and growth. Okay. For
Hmm.
me, the biggest success I've had is trying to not strike with 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things a day. Okay, just focus on the largest problem I have that day. And if you can solve your business's largest problem, that's generally going to lead towards revenue and generally profitability too. You know,
Hmm. So for you, and it sounds like you just on a micro level as well. Every day you say, this is my biggest challenge to face today. I'm going to tackle this today.
and I start with it and I don't stop till it's resolved 100%. Nothing else gets done. And then I'll delegate the other tasks that need to be done for sure.
Okay, great. So let's go into the lightning round here. These are the kind of the questions to leave the listeners off on a good point. So we're gonna go through three of them back to back and just quick response. Obviously, put your taste on these. But starting off with number one, what's one tool or resource that's been a game changer for your business?
Synergy. Shout out to the people over there. It's a basketball analytics platform. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It can tell you, when my client's going left using his right hand off a pick and roll, pulls up at the elbow, what percentages he's shooting. It gets so granular. It's an amazing piece of technology that enables us to put together incredible external stakeholder material. So big shout out to them.
So synergy. Synergy,
Synergy.
cool.
Yep.
Okay. Second one here. What's the best piece of advice you've received about scaling a business?
Best piece of advice I've received about scaling a business is take big risks. I had a great executive coach, Doug Stotland, and obviously that's as cliche as it gets, take big risks. But take big risks, like not just for the business, but for yourself, for your ego.
Mm,
Step outside of like being afraid to pitch yourself to a client that you don't think you can get. Step outside of the fact of failing. Honestly, that I think that is the number one restriction besides capital for founders is what if this fails? And if it does, it's back to the drawing board. But I can at least sleep easy at night knowing I'm doing
right.
something I love and taking that swing.
Right. Okay. Taking the big swings. I love it. All right. Last one here, and this is going to be a little bit redundant, but it's going to change up in question for a reason. What advice would you give to founders that are just starting their journey?
What advice would I give to founders there? Just do it. Like just take that chance and do it. I think, surround yourself with the right talent and ask a lot of questions. That's my biggest advice. Find people who have done it before and ask a lot of questions.
That's big. So just do it, but also ask a lot of questions.
Do it, but ask a lot of questions and probably in the opposite order.
I think they go hand in hand, man. But that's great. That's great advice for us to leave off on. Really have appreciated having you on here. So thank you for joining. That wraps up another inspiring episode of Founders Future. Again, just want to thank Mitchell for sharing his journey with us and his insights. So Mitchell, thanks for being on here. To our
Great.
listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe to Founders Future, wherever you get or listen to your podcast. You can also find more resources and insights at closures.io, where we're dedicated to helping businesses accelerate their sales and marketing efforts through world-class systems and playbooks. Until then, keep climbing, and we'll see you on the next one.